You don't need me to tell you that Starfield was one of the most anticipated games of the last few years, and it's hard to believe that at one point, Xbox were literally hanging their entire future as a brand on the success of this game. Safe to say that didn't really pan out, and even though the game has received some decent updates and even a DLC since release, it's kind of just faded into irrelevance, so I thought now is the perfect time to go back and take a look at it. The thing is, if a normal game fails, that's one thing, but if a Bethesda game fails, that's entirely another. Bethesda design games that are intended to be enjoyed for years, even decades in some cases. Longevity is one of their core design philosophies, so to see Starfield in the state that it's in now is really sad. But how did it get here? And is the game worth playing now? For some background, I'm a fairly big fan of Bethesda's other games. Skyrim and Morrowind are among my favourite games ever. I love the style of Bethesda's games and the way they encourage exploration, and it feels like there's something new to do around every corner, and the worlds are just full of people to meet and things to do. I'm also hugely interested in space games like Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, and No Man's Sky, so when I heard that Bethesda were working on a hugely ambitious space sim, I was just instantly sold. There's just one problem. Bethesda's last game, Fallout 76 in 2018, was an unmitigated disaster that launched with countless technical issues and just lost a lot of what I think makes Fallout such a unique and special world. Needless to say, Bethesda's reputation was through the floor after this catastrophe, but we were being promised that they'd learn from their mistakes and that it wouldn't happen again. Starfield was supposed to be the epic return to form for Bethesda. I followed all the rumors from day one, and when the teaser released in 2021, I just instantly fell in love with the look and feel of this game.
To discover what's out there.
Good luck, Constellation. You are go for launch.
The environments felt gritty, real, and lived in, but still warm and inviting in a way, and the soundtrack still gives me chills every single time. Even today, more than 2 years after the game released, and more than 4 years after this trailer was revealed, watching this teaser still fills me with the same sense of wonder and anticipation it did the very first time I watched it. After this point, there's a fairly steady supply of occasional information about the game, some trailers, a gameplay reveal, and later a full hour-long gameplay showcase. All this looked so good, I did something I shouldn't have done. I did something so apocalyptically, deplorably stupid that I still look back in anger on it to this day. I pre-ordered the game. And I didn't just pre-order the game. Since just about everything I play comes free from the, at the time anyway, very affordable Xbox Game Pass, I thought I'd treat myself and spend literally all of my money on the special Bethesda Fanboy Whale Edition. And admittedly, terrible financial decision as it was, the game came in a really cool package. Everything came packaged in this heavy lockable case, and even though I deeply regret my choice of purchase here, this locking mechanism is still insanely cool. The code for the download came printed on this little metal stick, which is a replica of the device used in the game to transfer currency, along with a watch and a stitched patch that you could put on a jacket or a backpack or something. So my investment in this game was fairly big. It better be good. So I started the 130GB installation and started waiting. Release date came around a couple of days later, so I took a deep breath and opened what had become my most anticipated game of all time. And honestly, particularly early on, I thought it was really good. I started the game on some mine on an alien moon where I unearthed and touched a magical alien space rock that gave me some weird visions. When I entered the character creator, I first realized how deep this game actually was. I entered the character creator, selected a background, added 3 traits that gave me some positive and negative attributes, and headed back out into the game world. There were a few minutes of combat tutorials that showed me how to fight both on the surface of a planet and in space, before I was guided to the headquarters of a mythical space exploration society called Constellation, located on the paradise planet of Jemison, in the capital city of the United Colonies. They told me that they believe that the magical space rock that I touched is capable of leading them to proof of an intelligent alien civilization. From this point in the game, you can do anything, and I mean anything. You can continue the main story and follow clues that will lead you to the next magical alien space rock, or join the United Colonies military and try to discover the mystery behind an outbreak of highly dangerous species of alien. You can also head to the cyberpunk-style city of Neon and become an agent for Ryujin Industries, one of the all-powerful megacorporations that control large sections of human-settled space. Or just do what I did, and follow the main story for a while before getting bored and just floating around the settled systems and seeing what trouble you can find. At this time in my Starfield journey, I was having a great time. Still though, from this point the cracks were starting to show. Let's start with what the game does right. First of all, the aesthetic. Regardless of what some might say, particularly in an RPG that's intended to be completely immersive like Starfield, aesthetics matter, and this game absolutely nails them. The whole game uses a design philosophy that Bethesda call NASA punk, a style that fuses the hard, utilitarian, mechanical look of current day NASA tech and the colourful, expressive, rebellious style of punk. The world feels genuinely lived in on every level. Ship modules feel run down, but still warm and inviting, like they're the homes of real people. Everything feels like it has a story behind it and it can be picked up and interacted with. I know this type of gameplay isn't really for everyone, but I've personally always loved these types of games that take the time to be a bit slower and have real depth to their world. You can really see how much development and world building has gone into this game with all of the audio logs and notes and posters and things left around the environments. The soundtrack too. I've always appreciated a game with a good soundtrack, and Starfield absolutely smashed it. When you're in combat, you get these kind of fast, frenetic, aggressive brass hits and driving percussion. While you're exploring deep space, you get everything from high, tense strings to slow orchestral swells. And when you're exploring large settlements, you'll usually hear some light, kind of futuristic synths. I could do a whole video talking about just how much I love the soundtrack of this game. It feels reminiscent of sci-fi classics, but still with its own very unique identity. Finally, my absolute favourite thing about this game is the shipbuilder tool. When I first watched the gameplay reveal, it was the feature I was looking forward to testing the most, and it absolutely delivered. I could literally spend hours tweaking my ship and just creating what was in my imagination. If I had to make a few small complaints though, I'd say that the bar for entry to this feature is a bit high and that it is annoying to have to grind for hours just to have enough credits to make a few minor edits to my ship, and that the system tends to be fairly difficult to work with, and it's difficult to do some things without there being some kind of error or warning that means you sometimes can't create exactly what you want. Now what the game does badly: loading screens. So many loading screens. If you want to play Starfield, prepare to see this image a lot. If you want to take off into space, loading screen. You want to fast travel between star systems, loading screen. Land on a planet, dock with a space station or another ship, loading screen. Like, the average quest in this game is talk to some NPC, take off in your ship, which is a short cutscene and a loading screen, set your destination and grav jump to the quest objective, which is a cutscene and a loading screen, land on the planet, which is a cutscene and a loading screen, get out of your ship, which is another loading screen, kill some guys, pick up some random object and fast travel back home. And don't get me wrong, Skyrim and Fallout both have loading screens, but you could easily wander around the world and explore the environments in those games for like 20 minutes without encountering a single one. But in Starfield, these loading screens are just absolutely relentless. And the thing is, I fully understand that to create a world with this level of detail, the world needs to be separated by loading screens. But it's just the fact that there's so little effort to hide them. Like, why couldn't we have a few seconds of your ship traveling from the perspective of the cockpit when you fast travel instead of just the same black loading screen every single time? All this adds to Starfield feeling sometimes like it's mostly faked or like a cardboard cutout of a game rather than a real game. Surprisingly though, considering this is Bethesda, even at launch there weren't all that many technical issues. You could see that they definitely wanted to turn their reputation around after Fallout 76's, let's just say, challenging launch. Other than a few graphical issues and some occasional physics bugs, the game wasn't too bad technically, and all the way through my playthrough, I didn't have a single crash or major technical problem. Something though that always just felt really dumb and weird to me in this game was how laws were enforced. Like, in open space, if you blow up a ship full of innocent civilians in cold blood, nobody even says a word to you. But if you move a plate or like a cup or something in a settlement, everyone pulls out guns and starts firing at you. The other thing is the step out moment. In the marketing on the run up to release, Todd Howard was yapping on about how important the step out moment, or the moment where this whole world of possibilities of a new Bethesda IP opens up. In Skyrim, that was when you leave the cave. In Fallout, it's when you leave the vault. But in Starfield, there's no real big, definite moment where the whole galaxy opens up to you. I think this is part of the trouble of having the whole game world open to the player from literally the second the game begins. If the whole world is open to you, it kind of makes the game feel smaller rather than bigger, or like it doesn't hold any more surprises. And surprises in far, obscure corners of the game world are a core part of Bethesda's DNA as a studio. And in any of Bethesda's other games, the scale of the world and the time it would take to get across it was a key limiter for where you could go at certain points in the game. But in Starfield, it takes literally 5 clicks to travel across the entire galaxy, which just completely destroys any sense of scale in this world. Now let's do some quickfire complaints. None of these things break the game, but some of them do get pretty annoying. For example, why in this next-gen game does water look and feel worse than a game that came out in 2001? Why does this particle effect look so dreadful? Why do the leaves on the trees in New Atlantis not let any light through? Why are there about 2,000 different ammo types that are only compatible with 1 or 2 weapons each? How did this game launch without an FOV slider? Why does the UI in this game feel like the interface on my grandma's printer? Why is this NPC looking at me like that? And then there are all the usual Bethesda-isms, like the fact that I can stand right in front of someone, brandish a sword, go invisible, kill them, and then reappear standing over a corpse holding a weapon and be subject to absolutely no suspicion at all from the authorities. But if I pick up a cup that doesn't belong to me, I get a galaxy-wide bounty on my head and everyone starts shooting at me. And also, as a complete civilian, I can walk into the UC's administrative office and, if I so choose, murder the president of the entire galaxy in cold blood, and as long as I'm crouching, I probably won't even get a bounty. Now, what's mixed in this game? The general gameplay here is very mixed. Some things that were heavily promoted in the marketing, like the Armstrong moment where you step out onto the surface of a new planet, ended up being little more than a loading screen and a little sound effect. Not exactly the sense of wonder and possibilities that was marketed to us. There are also just so many moments and areas in the game that felt like missed opportunities. Like the stories told in this world could have been a lot bigger, but maybe like the engine just couldn't handle it or something. That doesn't seem particularly unlikely from what we've heard. What ended up being much better than I expected though was the combat. In the initial gameplay reveal, the enemy AI looked completely brain dead, and the guns looked like they fired with all the impact of an unloaded Nerf gun. Overall, combat just looked like it felt really slow and clunky and cumbersome. After playing the game a bit though, the combat is honestly fairly fun and reactive. All the guns have unique sound effects and animations and have weight to them that makes them feel real. Sometimes if you kill an enemy that's wearing a jetpack, they'll explode and fly away, which is always fun to watch. Later on in the game, you also get access to superpowers that allow you to slow down the passage of time, reverse gravity, burn your enemies to a crisp, or see what they're going to do in the future, just to name a few, which adds a whole new dimension to the combat. Oh, and also zero-G combat. From the second I saw this in the gameplay showcase, this is one of the things that I was looking forward to the most, and I can definitely say it doesn't disappoint. There is nothing cooler than fighting in a massive open zero-G chamber in a space station and having enemies coming at you from any direction, where shooting projectile-based weapons pushes you back. I've even had some encounters where I'm in a station or ship where the gravity is shifting on and off every few seconds. Overall, combat in Starfield was a whole lot better than I anticipated, and sometimes maybe some of the best I've ever seen in a Bethesda game. Ship combat was good as well. While not as in-depth and complex as, say, Elite Dangerous, it felt really fun and punchy. I loved how the ships turn and accelerate slowly, since it really adds to the feeling that you're controlling a big, heavy machine. It's complete with the genre-standard power distribution system that allows you to divert power to all the essential systems on the ship, like by powering up the engines to maneuver faster, or your grav drive to allow you to escape dangerous situations quicker. Still though, grenades do tend to feel a bit wimpy sometimes. Like you throw one into the center of a few enemies, and all that happens is it goes off with a little puff, and all the surrounding enemies just sort of collapse from embarrassment or something. Also, you call this a combat slide? Now the quests. The quests in this game are very hit and miss. The main quest is fairly weak, to be honest. It's basically a 20-hour fetch quest where you just get a waypoint on some random planet, fight past some generic enemies, touch another magic space rock, and when you bring it back to your secret Space Explorer Society's headquarters, all you get is, "Good job. Now do it again." The story itself felt fairly bland to me too in terms of writing. I get the feeling they were going for an epic journey kind of story, but there really aren't any kind of big twists, revelations, or sense of wonder or discovery that I think is essential for this kind of story. The scale of the story and stakes are also just non-existent, because you're not really given any reason to care about these characters or the conflict, since you're not even really told what you're fighting for at any point. It doesn't even really answer any of its own questions, leaving everything up to the imagination of the player, and not in the interesting or thought-provoking way that I think that the writers probably intended. Still though, the new Game Plus mechanic is one of the standout features of the game, and honestly one of the only reasons I'd recommend anyone plays through the main quest fully. Starfield's faction quests are all so much better than this, and I'd honestly highly recommend all of them over the main quest. You can join the Space Navy and either unravel the mystery of a dangerous new alien species that's been rapidly infesting human colonies, or become a secret undercover double agent for a faction of pirates, or a sheriff for a collective of space cowboys, or even be an agent for a shadowy megacorporation. And all of these quest lines are so much more exciting and engaging and varied than the main quest. And that's not even counting all of the random side quests scattered across the universe. And in typical Bethesda fashion, there are a million ways to approach all of these quests, ranging from dialogue to combat to stealth. There are some amazing moments in some of these quests that you can create for yourself too. Like at one point, I was fighting pirates in an underground base planetside, and I discovered a computer. After hacking the computer, I used it to engage the base's automated security systems, which deployed a bunch of turrets and an army of military robots to help me fight. It's moments like these that make Starfield feel genuinely alive and worth playing. The game has evolved since release too. A few months after launch, there was an actual planet map added, instead of whatever this is meant to be. along with some gameplay customization settings. The coolest thing of all, though, was a drivable vehicle that let you get across planets faster. This is groundbreaking since it was the first ever non-horse ground vehicle in a Bethesda game that isn't attached to an NPC's head. There was also a DLC called Shattered Space that came out, and honestly was fairly good. It let you dive into the mysterious cult of House Varun that was teased in the base game, and since I have a serious unchecked spending issue, it came packaged along with my pre-order of the game. The DLC had a different kind of overall vibe to the base game, with more of almost like a dark fantasy kind of feeling than the hard sci-fi of the original. That said, though, for me the main attraction was the fact that it added some things that people really wanted to see, like a very large open area to explore, and just overall felt more like classic Bethesda. Even though I don't think it was big enough to be considered a standout feature of the game, the dialogue persuasion system was a fun little mini-game that took a surprising amount of time and skill to master, so I think it deserves an honourable mention here. So overall, Starfield is a very flawed game with glimpses of good ideas, but if you want to know if it's worth playing as we go into 2026, it doesn't really feel like a Bethesda game in a lot of ways, with the fact that the game takes place across a lot of different separate maps, so it loses some of that feeling of limitless possibilities that I think they were going for. But sometimes, when the classic Bethesda DNA shines through, like in some of the missions, environments, and dialogue systems, it really makes this game feel like it's almost worth wading through all of these issues. Thanks for watching. This is probably going to end up being a really long one. I think it's my longest script ever, so thanks for sitting through it to this point. This has also been by far my most challenging video to make. The file's corrupted not once but twice, and for some reason every time I tried to export it for a full day, the audio just wasn't working. So I hope you had more fun watching this than I did making it. Thanks also for 1 full year on YouTube. I've had an amazing time making videos the past year, so let's hope this is the first of many. The support in the last few videos has been amazing to watch, and I just hope that it continues. Since we're getting to the end of the year, I've got a 2025 roundup in the works, which will probably end up being my last one for the year. I've already got goals and ideas for the new year that I can't wait to tell you all about. As always, thanks for continuing to support this channel, and I'll see you all very soon.